I didn't get much time to play Arknights the last couple weeks, and since Trials for Navigator events don't repeat, I decided to skip making a video for Act or Die. It's definitely not because ADEX8 is hard. Definitely not. Looking at the 4 Trials for Navigator stages, and assuming I don't want to use 6 stars, which would allow me to cheese a lot of things with Tragodia, TN3 is probably impossible, and TN4 seems really challenging. Maybe someone with a bigger brain than me can solve that one. TN1 and TN2 both look possible though. Well, I say TN1 looks possible, but I'm literally commentating on this video as we speak, so at this point I know it is. Okay, let's talk about this TN1 run. First off, a 5-star clear is probably impossible. We don't have enough healing to block Lucian in Wave 2 for a meaningful amount of time, which means our best option for getting past the boss's 80% dodge without 6 stars is Windscoot, who has Dodge Ignore. I'm not too disappointed though, since now I get an excuse to use Norcorn. But we can save that discussion for later. Wave 1 is pretty simple. The only enemies that pose a threat are the Ice Twins, and even then they aren't really a threat until one of them is defeated. Even with the HP drain debuff, the stall here is infinite until one of them dies. Baseline has enough healing and defense to keep himself and Minimalist alive against the Swordsman, and Norcorn and Chestnut are enough to hold the Archer. After that, it's just a matter of trial and error to figure out when to deploy Minimalist so the two get killed at the same time. This is a little annoying since Grey Altar and Minimalist both have RNG talents, so I still need to manually time the last skill activation here to maximize the odds of a simultaneous kill. The only other thing worth mentioning here is Chestnut's weird placement. I'm using Chestnut's S2, which generally sucks because of the range reduction, but in Wave 2, I primarily use it to keep a single key operator alive. In the first half to keep Grey alive with the configuration you see here, and later to keep Herald alive as the boss makes his final sprint for the blue box. Now we're on to Wave 2, the interesting part of the fight. As mentioned before, the only operator that can reliably deal damage to Lucian is Windscoot. And since my Windscoot isn't max level, 2 full skill activations isn't enough to kill him. Our first opportunity to damage Lucian is as he rounds the 3rd corner. We hold him in place with Ethan, and we hit him with Windscoot. Once Windscoot and Ethan are done, Austa continues binding the boss. As the boss makes his way around the stage, he tears down the roadblocks, making the stage more complex. So the goal here is to stall him long enough that all the other enemies are killed before Lucian makes it to the first roadblock. So the operators I've chosen here were primarily selected for their stalling potential. Since we don't want to block the boss, Ethan is the obvious choice here. We've also got Austa's binds and Grey Altar's slows. In my first clear of this, I also had Broca in place of Norcorn, but after watching that footage, I realized it wasn't particularly impactful since his slows were overlapping with a lot of Grey's slows. So as Lucian makes his way along the left side, Gray does double duty, killing the dancers while continuing to slow the boss. One thing I'm sad didn't make it into the final clear was the section here as Lucian passes by Chestnut. Lucian one-shots Chestnut. In early attempts at this clear, I used baseline to push Lucian forward along his path and trigger his dash, all to keep Chestnut out of his range. But eventually I got enough stall earlier in the clear that I could reliably kill all the dancers, so it became unnecessary. But I still wanted to mention it here since it amused me. It's pretty rare that you want to push the boss closer towards the blue box. Okay, with all enemies except the boss dead, it's time for the final burst. We get one more skill activation on Windscoot. As I mentioned earlier, my Windscoot isn't max level, so the boss survives with about 10 to 15,000 HP. But with all the binds and slows we have here, and a few lucky crits from Minimalist, Lucian gets taken down with plenty of time to spare. I actually got pretty lucky with the RNG here. I didn't even need to use Chestnut's skill on Herald. And that's pretty much all I have to say about this clear. I'm gonna try to do TN-2 before the event ends, but I make no promises.
Even guys like me are happy to get through tough battles like these.